Hello and welcome to the Anorak Review Show with your host, the Anorak. If I had to really think of what could be at least one of my favourite bands, one of my picks would be Daft Punk. And they have been for around a decade and a half. And what a decade and a half that has been. I had my ups, I had my downs, and I've learned quite a bit about myself as a person. And Daft Punk have definitely played something of a role in my shaping. And they definitely played a key factor in how I look and listen to things. I've been hooked up to their music ever since, like, the early to mid 2000s. And it's mostly due to the very unique and iconic styles and sounds that only they could produce. They don't exactly restrict themselves to one specific style, genre, or whatever, and this opens up a world of opportunity and possibilities, in terms of collaboration, in terms of ideas, moods, and even collaborations. So, which is why when news reached that they would kind of split up after nearly 30 years since their earliest formation, I've been quite gutted by this. Just as shocked as anyone else, really. But as an old wise person once said, let's not cry that it's gone. Smile because it actually happened. Which is why today, I'm celebrating the 20th anniversary of what's considered by many to be their best album, as what considered one of the greatest albums in the genres of house and electronica, 2001's Discovery. And this one is, and right off the bat, the cover is simple and iconic. The famous Daft Punk logo in a very bright and colourful metallic sort of shape. I'm kind of impressed how they go through the effort to get all that liquid metal and put it into that specific shape and have all that kind of spectrum colour gleaming from it. I give kudos to the crew who had to go for that effort. So with that aside, let's take a look at each of the songs and analyse a little bit of them and why they may be good. Beginning, of course, with One More Time. And what a starter this is. One More Time is probably the most well-known song. If you think of Daft Punk, you'd think of One More Time. And there's probably a reason why. This song was practically revolutionary at the time. This was considered by some to be house music perfected, and I can agree with that. This was definitely a highlight in the clubs. It hit the charts, and what do I think of it personally? It's really good. It's friggin' Daft Punk. What could you say about it? It's catchy. It's got vocoded vocals by the late great Romanthony. It's just all around clubby awesomeness. It begins in that slow gradual build-up, sampled of course from More Spell on You by Eddie Johns, another song that's also quite a good disco song I recommend. And then it pays off and it has that catching thumping beat to it. Then there's that calm down breakdown, and it just gives me something of almost of a chill in a way. I can't think of any more simple words to think of it. It's just fun. That's probably the word I think of it. It's just pure fun at its finest. And apparently, a little fun trivia, this song was actually made as far back as 98. Like, early 98, soon after the first album, Homework. Which, for something from that time, is pretty damn impressive. And of course it ends with those sudden, ominous, chiming bells, which of course transitions perfectly to the next song, Aerodynamic. Starting off with a very funky, groovy, I guess kind of bassy synth riff, before it then cuts into an epic, almost guitarish solo that just enlightens. Then it combines together, and it all ends with this almost spacey, almost kind of baroque-esque kind of synth track that just fades out into the wind. This is another classic song of theirs, and it's worth listening to if you're out on the bus, or just dream about going to space, or something of that sort. It then leads us to the next song, Digital Love. More poppier in nature. This one samples I Love You More by George Duke, and it features lyrics sung by the Daft duo themselves. This definitely captures that romantic sense and the feeling of earning and being distant from the person you have feelings for. It definitely gets that feeling across in both the vocals and just the tone of the song, the very mood of it. And then there's the whole guitar riffs and solos that feel kind of reminiscent of Supertramp, which actually I think was the kind of style they were trying to go through, so they did well on that. Next is another iconic song of theirs, Harder, Better, Faster, Stronger. A very bouncy, funky, riffy kind of track, and most of that is due to the sample of the song, Edwin's Birdsong's Cola Bottle Baby, which is also another good song that I recommend checking out. And of course it has simple yet very iconic lyrics. Work it, make it, do it, make us. It's just all around, it's another iconic song of theirs, and it itself will get sampled by Kanye West with his song, well, Stronger. But I won't entirely blame him for that, because this song is another catchy classic of theirs. In a way, the lyrics kind of speak from the point of view of like a machine, like a machine that kind of produces products for people, be it like, of course, music. And another thing I like about most of Daft Punk songs is that even though a lot of them are sampled, they're not entirely just copy-paste. What they do well is kind of build up upon them, kind of twist and spin them into something new, and that's probably one of the strengths that Daft Punk have gained and accomplished. Then there's the very disco-y song Crescendos, if I'm saying that right. This definitely continues on the very funkish punk kind of tone that Harder, Better, Faster, Stronger kind of left off. And yeah, this while the title is technically a reference to the fictional band The Crescendos from the movie Interstellar 5555, it is definitely a play on words in terms of this song, as it kind of builds around this looping crescendo that keeps going on, and yet you never grow tired of it, you just continue dancing to it. It's another classic house track of theirs, which is definitely worth listening to. We then take a break from all the fun and dancing with the very ambient track Night Vision. It's very short, but very sweet nonetheless. It's calm, soothing, almost chilled kind of way. It definitely sounds like something you'd listen to chilling on a beach or outside a garden while the sun sets. It really calms you down from all the intense dancing for like, what, 30 minutes at most. However, we return to the epic fun dancing with Superheroes. Somewhat more acid house reminiscent and minimalist in a way. This one samples from a vocal piece from the song Who's Been Sleeping in My Bed by Barry Manilow. Yes, the very same guy who gave us Marry Them All. That I won't hold against him, because this song is another good one of theirs. What isn't? This has a kind of... The title actually kind of fits in a way. It has that kind of grandiose, almost fast-paced style with its quick drum beat and thumping bass, or maybe it's a kick drum, I don't know, but regardless, it's one that pumps up the soul and gets you running and racing. It just races the soul. It then leads us to the next song, High Life, sampling cut up little bits from the song Breakdown for Love by Tavares. High Life is definitely one of the more optimistic songs in terms of the mood. It gives off a sense of like being high society, dressed all fashionable, gleaming lights and all that. It gives off that kind of sparkly 80s-esque nostalgic visual. It's one that's worth listening to when you're walking down the street, seeing all the neon lights, pumped up and excited, and having fun with friends. It definitely brings back that nostalgic disco vibes that they sort out with this album. After that, we have another very chill track called Something About Us. Like Night Vision, it's very ambient and down-tempo, almost a bit kind of like lounge music. This one also has lyrics sung by the Daft duo themselves. I consider it more like a parallel of sorts to Digital Love, while that one's more about yearning and being distant. This one's more about actually confessing face to face with the person you love. And I think it's a very good, and it's very, very good parallel, or at least a kind of opposite of Digital Love, which I think is very interesting to say the least. That aside, though, it is a very, very sweet and very soothing, almost tragic kind of song, and considering what happened with Daft Punk's split, its lyrics definitely reach home and really feel different in that way. The next song, Night Vision, is another underrated song of theirs. Great guitar riffs that sound almost like 70s exploitation soundtracks, those harp-like synths, and that kind of funky bass that I think Daft Punk did well at capturing. It still carries on that kind of mellow mood that songs like Night Vision and Something About Us kind of had, but still maintaining that kind of semi-upbeat approach that some of the other songs had. It may seem as a filler to some, but I still think it's a very underrated and underappreciated song of theirs. Then we have Veridis Quo. Oh, I see what they did there. Veridis Quo, Very Disco, Disco Very, Discovery. Yeah, I think that's kind of obvious. This one's another chill-out track on the album. It reminds me a bit of the soundtrack for the Tron Legacy, which I think definitely owes much of its mood and style to this particular song. It has a kind of, like the ending of Aerodynamic, it has a kind of baroque feel to it with its sort of organs. It definitely also has a kind of Moroder approach with the synths and the kind of keyboards, how it's all deep, mellow, and kind of almost atmospheric and ominous. This is definitely one of the more moodier songs of the album, if not most of Daft Punk's discography. And that's in a good way. It's in a kind of sci-fi thriller, dark atmosphere kind of way. It's another underrated song of theirs. The mood then kicks off again with the song Short Circuit. A best way to describe this song in simple terms and labels, I would consider it kind of glitch hop kind of track. It has a very, for lack of a better word, glitchy breakbeat to it. It almost sounds like music you hear out of a Super Nintendo or Sega Mega Drive game, and that's a good thing. It still captures nostalgia in that way. It also gives off a kind of feeling erratic, almost restrained away, like your machine that's shutting down, like going up so mad you're kind of shorting it out like a short circuit. That glitchy vibe continues with the next track, Face to Face. This one, while carrying on the same glitchiness as the previous track, it has a slightly more poppier, slightly more appealing approach, mainly due to its co-production and guest vocals by Todd Edwards, who would eventually collaborate with them later a second time for the song Fragments of Time from the album Random Access Memories. And unlike Short Circuit, which was mostly original synth tracks, this one has a bunch of samples, very cut up and subtle if you don't notice them the first time listening, from groups such as ELO, Queen, and the Alan Parsons Project. It really gives off the kind of broken record feel, and apparently, according to the duo, within the context of the album, this is connected very, very uniquely with Short Circuit. That track representing the feeling of being shut down in a way, and then this one gives off the feeling of being reactivated and regaining consciousness and truly, generally facing reality face to face. And in terms of mood, it definitely has that kind of nightlife feel. It's like the kind of song you listen to while driving through a very lit up neon city like Las Vegas or London or something of the like. It's another very underappreciated song of theirs. I think it's worth a listen to newcomers of the group. We then of course conclude the album with possibly the longest song of the album and probably the longest song Daft Punk ever made, fittingly titled Too Long. Exactly 10 minutes long, it also acts as a kind of bookend in a way, returning to the light-hearted, optimistic funkness that One More Time achieved. In fact, it carries over the same vocalist, Rob Anthony, doing some new lyrics and vocals for this, and not exactly filtered through a vocoder or auto-tuned, at least as much as the first track. It definitely feels like a worthy send-off to the album, a kind of cheerful, funky vibe that almost feel good in a way. It's just in the same way One More Time is a fitting opening, Too Long is an equally fitting conclusion to the album. And overall, my thoughts on the Discovery album? No other words to say other than an instant electronic classic. This is when they really perfected their skills. And to any newcomers who want to get into the classic duo, I say give this album a listen if you so choose. And of course, I want to thank Thomas Bongolter and Guy Manuel Cristo for being probably one of the most influential people in the industry of music. And whatever they do individually in the near future, I can't give them enough of the best of good luck. Next time we go from celebrating the 20th anniversary of an album by a French electronic duo to the 50th anniversary of an album by a British prog rock band. And a real classic, influential one at that. It's the 1971 classic Aqualung.